Hi there. My name is Paolo Pietropaolo. It's great to be with you this evening from the stage of the Chan Center for the Performing Arts. On behalf of the team here, thank you for tuning in and welcome to this pre-show talk with Magos Herrera and Colin Jacobsen. I want to begin by acknowledging that the Chan Center, where I am today, is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. My guests this evening, as well as those of you tuning in, are joining virtually from many places, and we also acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands as well. Throughout the conversation this evening, if anyone tuning in has questions for the artists, please go ahead and enter them into the chat at the bottom of your screen, and I'll get to as many of them as I can. I am really thrilled to introduce the two squares who will be sharing the screen with me tonight, although they are far from square in the other sense, Magos Herrera and Colin Jacobsen. Magos has one of those jazz voices that you can never forget once you hear it. It grabs you right away. It instantly transports you onto like another plane of existence. She sings in Spanish, she sings in English, and she sings in Portuguese. She collaborates across musical genres. She's a wonderful educator. She's a social activist as well. And she's had an incredible musical career spanning more than 2 decades. And Colin Jacobsen has been one of the key figures shaping a new kind of 21st century classical music, both as an outstanding violinist and as an outstanding composer. He's toured as a member of Yo-Yo Ma's Silk Road Ensemble. He co-founded the New York-based orchestra, The Knights, and he also co-founded the string quartet, Brooklyn Rider, who we'll see performing soon with Magos Herrera. Speaking personally, it's an enormous thrill to get to meet them, even if only virtually. It's been my pleasure to present their music on In Concert, my weekly program on CBC Music, including their Dreamers CD, which was a record of the week at CBC Music. I'm so excited to hear what they have to say about this beautiful project. Magos, Colin, thank you so much for being with us.
Wonderful to be here with you.
Very happy to be here, Paolo.
I'm looking forward to hearing about the project, but first, considering the times, let's begin with a check-in, what it's been like for you in these very strange times. Maybe Magos, I'll begin with you. Where are you and what's it been like for you these past few months?
Well, I'm in a beautiful place called San Miguel de Allende in the Bajío region in Mexico. My Brooklyn apartment, it's way too small to spend a quarantine. So my husband and I decided to spend it here. We're close to the countryside, and it's warm and it's beautiful. But also it has given us the space, the mental, not only the physical space, but also the mental space to stay sane and creative and in a positive spirit, and finding ways to connect with the world and keep making music the way we love to do it. Of course, nothing compares to breathe in the same space with with our collaborators. But at least we've been very busy creating music, creating albums, creating connections. We even did 2 beautiful new takes on 2 beautiful pieces with Brooklyn Rider, and of course waiting for this moment to just pass and taking something transformative and better for whatever it's next after COVID.
It's great to hear that you've been keeping so busy. Was it hard for you to adjust to working through a screen the way we're speaking tonight, the way everyone is working now? Was that hard?
Well, I think one of the things that we've learned through already 10 months is that we can learn fast. The need to connect is way bigger than whatever obstacle we find on the process. So we learn fast, and every new thing that we've done throughout all this time, including these videos with Brooklyn Rider, and then an album released in December, and so many other things throughout time. We've learned, and we have connect with people in technology and sound engineers, and we are learning as a community, and I think we adapt very fast. When it took me a couple of months to understand what was going on and the dimension of the problem and what we were facing. And then I made a resolution to stay positive and to create. And I mean, of course, again, it's never the same, but we've been, as a community, it's been very, very positive, and also as a very good friend of mine, and also Colin's friend, who is one of my favorite sound engineers in New York, Alex Wenger, who actually mixed our album. He said, Magos, because I was very concerned about what we're putting out there throughout COVID, and then what's going to happen when this ends. We're going to be like, oh, we sound terrible, but then he said, Magos, this is COVID era sound. This is what, in 10 years we're going to look, we're going to hear whatever we've been releasing all this time, and we're going to be, of course, that's how it sounded. That's a sound, that's an era sound. So I think one of the beautiful things we've learning is that we learn fast, and that the need of connecting and communicating and stay, sane and creating, it's way, way, way stronger than our limitations.
I love the beautiful positive message there in what you've said. Colin, what about for you? What's it been like for you, and where are you this evening?
Yeah, I normally am in Brooklyn as well, and the first 6 months of the pandemic, I was there. I live in a house with my brother, Eric Jacobsen, the cellist and conductor, who was the original cellist in Brooklyn Rider and who co-founded the Knights with me as well. And his wife, Aoife O'Donovan, the wonderful singer-songwriter, their 3-year-old daughter, Ivy Jo, and my wife, Miley Okamura, who's a dancer, and our daughter, Mimi. So we were kind of a pod for the first 6 months, and we would share, all the childcare in the afternoons. One of us would teach a class. So it was like the homeschooling thing was kind of great in a way, to know that we were in charge of the girls one afternoon, one parent, But then they went down to Orlando, where he's the music director. And then we came out to San Diego to my wife's, my in-laws, and we've been here since October. And sun and outdoors is not bad for kids or adults, I will say that. And like Magos, space to, and like good support with our daughter. And so, I mean, I guess, it's a strangely busy time. It's also like, I think of Ishiguro, the writer. I feel like I'm in one of his novels always, like Consoled, where you're trying to get somewhere, but something keeps getting in your way and you don't know what it is and you forget what it is, At the same time, like Magos, I do feel like it's been somewhat productive in a strange way. So a lot of writing projects, writing a piece for Brooklyn Rider and Avi Avital, the mandolin player.
Oh, cool.
Doing a Paganini Caprice a month as a violinist for a dance, for a dance collaboration. A wonderful choreographer named John Higginbotham and Dance Higginbotham. He wanted to embark on a project during this time that wouldn't just be dancers in kitchens for one social media thing, but would actually start now and go until we're out of this and beyond. So basically once a month I record a Paganini Caprice, and then he and my wife, who's also kind of a videographer these days, collaborate on making a dance video to it. And so that has kicked my butt and kept my chops up in a way that I haven't felt since I was a student at Juilliard. And to discover these pieces as an adult, rather than something you must play for an exam or something, but the joy and invention of them has been a nice thing. So various projects, yeah.
It makes me wonder, I mean, recording, of course, is a form of performance, particularly if it's a video recording as well. But what's it been like for you to exercise all of the muscles that you're exercising creatively without being able to exercise the live performance aspect in front of a crowd?
Is that
either one of you? Yeah, either one of you.
Colin, please, since you're talking about Paganini, why not go?
I mean, I haven't done that many live streams from my living room, a few, and I have to say it does trigger the same adrenaline, as long as it's, live. And I'm feeling, I mean, even, you know, right now, just talking together in this moment is wonderful. And so it is possible to feel some semblance of it, but it is, I will say with Brooklyn Rider, other than the things we did with Magos, the 2 beautiful songs that we were able to record in isolation, mostly we haven't done a lot of the Brady Bunch kind of videos, because we just feel like with a quartet, you need that physical resonance in the room. So it would be hard to assemble a Beethoven quartet, for instance, in that way. And it was hard to do what we did with Magos, but luckily, I think the songs lent themselves well to that, and the videographer was beautiful for that. So proud that that comes out of this time. But we did a few live things in the summer, like at Tanglewood, and so we were able to get together, masked, distanced, etc. But during this winter, we haven't been together, and the next time basically will be when we are together with Magos. We're supposed to go to Miami together next month. So fingers crossed that that will indeed happen. Yeah.
A collaboration is such a key part of the arts, and taking new directions in the arts. And one of the things that struck me and captured me about the Dreamers CD was that kind of alchemy that's apparent, that it comes from a collaboration between a string quartet like Brooklyn Rider and Magos, your incredible background and knowledge of jazz and Latin American music. Magos, take me back to the genesis of that project, of this project, Dreamers. How did it come about?
Well, I mean, there are 2 aspects of it. The first one, which is emotional, and the philosophy behind the project. It was kind of a response to Trump America, and this idea of criminalizing the idea of being an immigrant, and which was a very limited and narrow and ignorant statement. So it was kind of like my answer to say, there's a lot that needs to be known about being Latin American, and it's something that it not only Trump America, but it's something that I've experienced throughout my career since I experienced an international career, and it's how the perspective of being Mexican or Latin American, or it's so narrow, and so it was a way to show the vastness and the greatness of these incredible writers and songwriters and poets, that their philosophy and humanism still resonates still these days. So that was one aspect of it, and there were two curiosities in my pursuit. A musical one, in terms of how finding my voice in this very particular context, with strings on one hand, and in the other hand, being a super big fan of Brooklyn Rider, and how and being very curious about how we could work together, coming from so different backgrounds, and also the idea wasn't not just to do this with any string quartet or great quartet, but a group of artists that could really understand and resonate with the idea and the philosophy behind what I wanted to say. So, and Brooklyn Rider are just perfect, because they're not only super open-minded and curious and incredible artists and generous, but also from minute one, they understood what was the dimension of this narrative and what we wanted to resonate and to say with it. So that's basically what it was. And what came out of it, it was way beyond my expectations. It's been a beautiful, beautiful journey.
Colin, what was it like for you to come to that? I mean, as Magos says, there's this incredible body of literature and tradition and folklore that makes a part of the genesis of the project. Some of the poets, the poems that you worked with, to come as a string quartet, as a member of a string quartet. I believe you made some arrangements as well. What was that like for you to work with all of that in the background?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Magos, it has a physical, emotional, musical dimension first and foremost. This music is beautiful, and with Brooklyn Rider, we've worked with people from so many different genres outside of strictly classical, obviously, but we hadn't really delved deeply into this incredible, rich, set of songs and poetry and words. And when Magos approached us, first of all, it was like, Magos's voice is beautiful. We can see it nestled within the string quartet. It's going to sound good together. But I think, our trepidation at first was just like without drums, piano, say, and bass, we become the jazz, if you want to call it. I don't know if this is jazz. I don't know if this is classical. It's beautiful music, but we become the band. So I think that for a string quartet to do that is tricky. And whenever we are venturing outside of what we know very well, we feel lucky when there's, as Margot said, a generous guide into that tradition. And that's what she has been for us. I mean, I think, one of the first songs we talked about and Magos suggested was Balderrama, which was a song that I had been obsessed about listening to for years. So I was like, yes, we must do this. And I think, what we came to is that in a way, all of these songs tell the story of this narrative, but there is something about the lyrics of that song and this idea of a place, Balderrama, the bar in Salta, Argentina, that apparently still exists. In fact, we did a thing with the Orchestra of the Americas the other day, and there was a kid who at the end of the webinar, everyone's going away, and he stayed to say, I live in Salta. I know that bar. I go there. You need to come there with me sometime.
Wow.
And but the idea of the song is that there's this physical place, but more it's a mental and emotional space of where artists and poets and dreamers can get together and imagine a better future. And if you don't carve out that space, whether it's within a pandemic or outside of a pandemic or in a difficult political regime or if you don't have that space for yourself or for society or the Chan Center, wherever it is, then and these are the places where the flowers of society are allowed to bloom. And you need that possibility, and otherwise things go in not such a great direction, I guess.
Are we worried about that now? Do you think? Do we have that place online? Are we gonna continue with online after this ends, or is it going to be back to just live performance? Or is there something that we've learned about music now where we might continue and dip back into this for a way of communicating with new audiences, maybe?
You want to go ahead?
Go ahead, Magos. No, it's a tough question. So
it's a very tough question. I may say that I think we can learn a lot from what is happening. I think there are some positive things about what is happening in the way new audiences have been reached because of this possibility that never happened before. And also, so I think that we can learn something very positive, and we can use some of this in the future, no doubt. And I'm super positive about it. And I think it gives us a huge palette of, I've been 8 months in Mexico, so my English is very bad right now. And
Great.
But, or my accent is very strong right now. But I think we can learn a lot of things of what is happening, and many creative things are happening too. We're innovating, all of us, and I think that's something that with no doubt is positive. And maybe there are going to be hybrid circumstances, virtual and live, I don't know, but one thing that I always think about is what's going to happen afterwards, and I think it reminds me the Franquism, in Spain, that when it was over, everybody went out to the streets and live music was happening, and there was such a huge hunger of need of being together and listen to a live performance and go to bars and la movida madrileña. That's the consequence of Frankism. So I'm wondering that's going to happen, because personal life connection, it's something that we need, and although we're listening and experiencing a lot of innovation, I mean, especially we're talking about strings and human voice, and you need to feel it. You need to feel it through your skin, through your senses. So I think, I mean, if we can learn from this and use it in a very positive way, still having some virtual ideas to reach audiences around the world, that's beautiful. But live music, it needs to go back.
Yeah, you have to feel it physically as a listener. Absolutely. Colin, you mentioned one of the songs that we're going to hear, the Argentine song that we're going to hear on the program this evening. Magos, I wanted to ask you about another one of the songs, which is, I think it's called Volver a la 17 by Violeta Parra, which we're going to hear. I had never heard of Violeta Parra. I mean, I'm a fan of Latin American music. I've followed a lot of Latin American music, but still this was something that I had not heard of. And I'm so grateful to you for having introduced me to her work. Tell us a bit about her and what it means to you to share her voice with the world.
Well, Violeta Parra from Chile, she was such an incredible artist. She was very rooted to folk music and community, and she even built her own venue in the countryside, and her story is really beautiful. But something that I really love about Violeta Parra, first of all, it was an incredible female artist, with no doubt ahead of her time. But her words, so she speaks to the core of things. So even if she talks about love or about nature, she's so rooted to whatever is essential. And the magic of her words is not only that she's incredibly deep and essential, but she frames her words in such a simple, effortless way that it's so easy to listen to, but you're listening to these incredible, wonderful, mystical words. So she's with no doubt one of my, like Gracias a la Vida, which we didn't record it. If there's a second Dreamers, we should record that. Gracias a la Vida, like she thanks to life and to everything that it's essential and the simple things. So she's really deep in a very simple way, and I think that's genius. It's which is also something that we found in Undue, one of my favorite tunes in the album, arranged by Colin. It's such a simple tune, but so deep and so great and so amazing. So whenever we find these artists that can do greatness with simplicity, to me, that opens my heart in a very special way. And Violeta, with no doubt, it's one of these incredible artists.
Yeah, and if I may jump in on that, just that point of the beauty and the simplicity, I think one part of this narrative that Magos had in mind for this that I loved, and I think all of us in Brooklyn Rider did, was, of course, the title and the idea has some political overtones to it, obviously, from when it was conceived and what you were thinking, but it's not a protest song album and project. It's celebrating the beauty that came forth even in difficult conditions of these regimes under which they were written. And I think one thing that came up in conversation one time, Magos, was just that idea of if you're going to write something as beautiful as these songs, it can't be done with cynicism. And I think the worst place to be is if any of us under a difficult regime were to fall prey to cynicism. It's an enemy of art and life in a lot of ways, because then you stop dreaming for a better idea of the world. So that, in a way, is the most powerful thing about a song like that, or many of the songs on this album.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you said the word dreaming. That's the title of the project, Dreamers. I've got a question now from Adam. Adam would like to know if either, he says, I'm wondering if either of you have a favorite song from the Dreamers program. Colin, why don't you go first?
I think I hinted at it already. It is Balderrama. I mean, both for the music and the sentiment. And it's something that's, yeah, the idea of if the light goes out, you know, and on this place, then we're in trouble. But it seems to have a hopeful tone to it at the same time. And also just the way both Mercedes Sosa and now Magos sing it. It's just like such a rootedness to the earth and like the power of that I love. You know?
And your arrangement is amazing.
Gracias.
Well, that's a hard one. You know, I love all the album. I love it all. Actually, I was, you know, I started practicing yesterday, since hopefully we're going to meet soon in Miami, if everything goes right. I think I love it all because it has so many different emotional gestures. It talks to so many levels. But I guess I have to say that I love Milonga Gris and Ondiu, the one, you know, the two pieces that have no words, for different reasons. Ondiu, I think it's such an incredible arrangement, also by Colin, and it flows in such a beautiful way, and it's so eloquent even without the words. And the way Colin wrote the arrangement for it, you can feel, you know, because as Colin mentioned before, the quartet is the whole band, and they function, you know, in every aspect of the arrangement. So you can, for some reason, you can feel all the architecture of all the voices crossing in such a neat way. I think that's one of the things that, I mean, after 2 years that we released the album, or 2 years or three, I'm amazed about, you know, listening to every corner of the album and all the layers that navigate underneath. So Ondiu is one of them, and I guess Valderrama as well. It's such a powerful statement, and yeah. But I love all the album.
Yeah, likewise. And I should say that, I mean, you know, just to name a couple others, like La Aurora de Nueva York. I mean, that is really powerful, and Gonzalo Grau's arrangement is incredible in that. And just to say also, in our band, we did expand to include the amazing Matthias Kunzli on percussion. So he's very, you know, integral to all of these, to most of these arrangements as well. But the arrangers played such a wonderful part. Diego Schisis, I mean, talking about Violeta Parra, and like how he, that simplicity, but like giving it like that sense of a flower just slowly opening up with the pizzicato strings that are very closely, you know, in close harmony, but then it expands outwards. It's beautiful. And so yeah, it is hard to choose.
We're going to hear all of these songs in this performance, which took place, and this is the Canadian premiere of this performance. It took place in late 2019 in Guanajuato at the Cervantino Festival. I wonder if you can look back and cast your memory back and let me know what you're holding on to from that evening, from that performance that we're going to be witnessing in a few moments here. Maybe Magos, you go first.
Well, you know, I think, I mean, right now, I have to say that particular concert was one in the middle of others, like we were on tour, and that's the magic of live playing and being touring together, that every night something new was revealed on the performance for us, or at least for me, you know, because I have to say that looking back, to me, it was such an incredible learning process to this album, and the guys were incredibly generous with me to because we have to understand that they played together for 20 years, you know, so they're one cell, like they breathe at the same time, and it took me a second for me to understand and to dive into their into their unity and into their spirit. You know, it's something very deep and very, very particular. So it took me a second, and the more we performed live, the more I really dived into the music. So this particular concert was, you know, one among other ones that I felt, you know, like I was right there finding my space in you know, the way I phrase, the way I breathe, the way, you know, like understanding the way they breathe and finding my own way of breathing and my own way of phrasing together. So and then we had Bellas Artes. So it was a perfect, you know, a perfect path towards Bellas Artes.
And I would just add that, I mean, it was just so great to be in Mexico with Magos and her family, and like her sister. Like the two of them were such beautiful hosts to us, and just thinking, you know, of my experience in pandemic time, which is not to see that many people. But what I remember is when we got to Mexico City after just going to Guanajuato, and the first night, I mean, it's during this festival, there's so much life on the street. You know, we were in a plaza eating with like 10 mariachi bands all around us. It was like a Charles Ives mariachi experience, you know? And then the next day after the Seventino concert, going to Mexico City, getting stuck in traffic. And then like there's this huge parade going on, remember? I don't remember what the celebration was for again, but there's all these amazing Oaxacan
alebrijes, like this, like this huge paper
mache or
like
a million people in the street, and we have to get through there to get to Bellas Artes. And I'm like looking back, I'm like in my current turtle in shell, I'm like super spreader everywhere, you know, but like it was the best thing at the time.
But we did it. We did it, and we navigated through it, and we had some tequilas at the end as well, so it was all good. Oh, there was also a zombie parade.
That's the zombie parade. Yeah,
it sounds incredible. I want to ask you, Magos. We have just a couple of minutes left, and you're wearing these wonderful earrings right now. But I have to ask you, because I've seen footage of the concert that we're about to watch. You come on stage and you have this really regal composure, and you're wearing this kimono-like outfit that everyone here at the Chan Center has been talking about since I got here. It's quite something. And these amazing earrings. Tell me about your outfit that night.
You know, I love clothes, and I love Mexican designers, and but like very specific pieces. Like I collect them from my trips, and so these beautiful earrings that you're talking about are from Oaxaca, actually, from the artisans in a very remote town, like super remote, and they do this, you know, like with their hands, and it's just so beautiful, and they're all natural materials and everything. So that's the earrings that you're gonna see. It's organic, it's beautiful, it's handmade from Oaxaca, from the mountains. And then the kimono-like thing, it's a modern version of un huipil. Un huipil is like this kind of, you know, that a native dress that it's used in Mexico, that it's just like a square thing. You know, I'm sure you've seen those. Yeah, so this is like a new, like a contemporary version of that in linen, and it's, you know, the way it's been done, it's very, very unique, because it's also handmade, and they do this. You'll see it. It's beautiful.
I'm so glad I asked. I love hearing the backstory there. I'm afraid I have to wrap things up, unfortunately. It's been so wonderful to speak with you both. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll be there with you in Vancouver before too long.
I really look forward to that. Yeah, I hope so.
Bye.
On this stage, let's hope soon, sometime soon.
That would be beautiful. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Thank you for having us. Un beso, Colin. I miss you guys, and I hope everybody enjoys the show. Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you so much.